Hello and welcome back. Picking up where we left off, we're going to start going through some of our operational mode commands. I'm not going to spend too much time here, but it's probably worth having its own video. As we kind of alluded to in the last video, the way that all the commands work here is that you start with less specific and then you get into more specific. The most common commands that you're going to be using in operational mode are generally going to be your show commands. The show commands are what allow you to check the operation and control of the devices that are actually running on here and the services and all that. And you can kind of see here and get a sense of what those look like. Now, some of the most common ones you're going to use, and this is going to be useful for those of you coming from other operating systems, seeing up-down state, show interfaces terse. Think of that as show IP int brief. Now, I have a few IP addresses. These are actually system loopbacks, but here's the one that I have defined for my management interface. But show IP int brief, that's like that. If you needed to get really deep down the rabbit hole, we have an equivalent of kind of like the -v and the -vv, like the verbosity modifiers for those types of commands in Unix. I could do show interfaces, and terse is very little verbosity. I can do detail. It'll give me more information than just the normal show command, and I can even use the term extensive. Now, extensive and detail aren't always available for every show command, but they're there for most. And it really just depends on just how much information you need. Generally, you're not going to see people using detail or extensive unless they're doing some form of troubleshooting, in which case it becomes very, very useful. One of the other common show commands that you're going to be using is going to be the show commands to view the logs. Now, the system log message is, or actually that file is defined within the default configuration under the system part of hierarchy, and it's just to show log messages. Now, log is the toggle here. Messages is the list of files, and we can actually see the list of logs that are available by default on these boxes when you open them up. When you create things like trace options, or if you define like new syslogs that are logging specific events that you might be interested in, oftentimes just to like separate, cruft from things that you really want to see. Maybe you're running NAT on a firewall appliance and you just want to have a log that shows what those, the session tables look like. Those would go here as well. The stateful stuff goes somewhere else. We'll show that maybe later in the, somewhere another time. It's a different folder. So we'll just use show log messages. You can see that you actually have an archive here. By default, it'll save the last 10 copies, 0 indexed. And we could look at any of those if we wanted to. Just from here, it'll kind of gcat or gzcat. Is it zcat? Is it whatever the config? It'll let you see them even if they've been compressed. Show log messages just on its own is the current log. And I've had this thing up and running and not plugged into anything interesting for a while now. So this log is really boring, as you can see. So show log messages, show interfaces, when things are connected. If you want to look at your layer 2 switching tables, it'd be show Ethernet switching table. There's not going to be anything here because I don't have anything plugged in. And if you had protocols running, you could do show like OSPF, or neighbors, or show BGP neighbors, and there are going to be other videos sometime in the future outside of the scope of GNCIA where we'll kind of get into troubleshooting those specific protocols. But I think for day-to-day stuff, it's going to be usually what's your layer 2 doing, what's your layer 3 doing, and that's going to be show route as well, your show interfaces, your show Ethernet switching table, you do show ARP if you wanted to. That covers the basics. If you have anything you want to specifically see or questions, just toss them in the comments, and I'll throw a video together for you. All right, let's move on to config and the next video.